What if I told you that some of Hollywood's toughest stars weren't just acting tough on screen, they lived it? These were the men who didn't just break barriers in films. They broke bones, survived wars, and faced life-or-death situations long before they ever stepped in front of a camera. Today, we're counting down the 14 toughest actors in Hollywood history, from the least to the most hardcore. These actors didn't need special effects to show their strength. They proved it through their real-life exploits. So, buckle up as we dive into the extraordinary lives of men who made the tough guy persona look easy. And stick around until the end, because number 2 might just shock you. 14. Robert Mitchum. Before becoming one of Hollywood's most feared actors, Robert Mitchum led a life of survival. Raised during the Great Depression, Mitchum traveled across America on freight trains, taking any job he could, from miner to farm laborer. His tough beginnings were crucial in shaping the man he would become. Growing up in rough neighborhoods, Mitchum learned to defend himself, often getting into street brawls to survive. His fists weren't just for acting, they were a necessity. In 1948, Mitchum was arrested for marijuana possession, causing a huge scandal at the time. But instead of derailing his career, it only added to his reputation as Hollywood's ultimate bad boy. Upon his release, Mitchum became more popular than ever. He didn't need to act tough. He was tough. On set, he was known for his calm, emotionless demeanor. One time, he headbutted a photographer during an interview without a second thought, continuing to speak like nothing had happened. Mitchum was a man who lived harder than many of the characters he portrayed. As he put it, the key to acting was just showing up and not falling down. That stoic toughness carried over into every role he played, and his co-stars often felt real fear on set, unsure when Mitchum's bad boy side would emerge. For him, true toughness wasn't about violence. It was about keeping control and never showing weakness. 13. Charles Bronson. Charles Bronson was a man shaped by hardship, poverty, physical labor, and war were the crucible that forged his indomitable toughness. Born into a poor coal mining family in Pennsylvania, Bronson's early life was filled with backbreaking work in the mines. Starting at just 10 years old, these years spent underground and in violent neighborhoods gave Bronson the physical and mental resilience that would later define his on-screen persona. But it wasn't just his childhood that made him tough. Bronson's time in the military during World War II further toughened him. As a B-29 aerial gunner, he flew 25 combat missions over Japan, earning a Purple Heart for his injuries. His colleagues admired his calm under fire, with many relying on him during the toughest moments of battle. After the war, he carried these life-or-death experiences into his acting, creating a tough guy image that was as real as it was legendary. His roles were filled with raw intensity and authenticity. Whether he was playing a soldier, a vigilante, or an outcast, Bronson's appearance and demeanor made it clear that this wasn't just acting. This was a man who had lived through violence. Stories from the set often revolved around his quiet strength and calm demeanor, but when he was pushed, his intensity was palpable. Once, while shooting a fight scene, he punched a co-star so hard he broke his own knuckles, but he finished the scene anyway. No complaints, no stopping. Despite his success, Bronson didn't buy into the Hollywood lifestyle. He kept to himself, staying out of the spotlight and focusing on his work. His co-stars, like Steve McQueen, admired his authenticity, often describing him as the scariest guy they'd ever met, both on and off set. Bronson's stoic demeanor and fearlessness made him a true Hollywood legend, not because he was pretending to be tough, but because he lived it. 12. Sean Connery. Connery's early years were anything but glamorous. Growing up in the slums of Edinburgh, Scotland, he faced hardships that shaped his toughness. As a teenager, he worked a series of tough jobs, including as a milkman, a coffin polisher, and a laborer, experiences that toughened him up for life, long before his rise to fame. But it wasn't just his working-class roots that made him tough. Connery was known for his street fighting skills. He was a bare-knuckle boxer in his youth, and his ability to take on a fight was legendary. His own temper, fierce and quick to ignite, was just one side of his raw, unfiltered personality. Connery's explosive temper was known to surface both on and off set, and his refusal to back down from any challenge made him a force to be reckoned with. When he wasn't in the boxing ring, Connery spent his free time practicing his martial arts skills, building the physical strength that would make him perfect for his action roles. His athleticism was evident in his portrayal of James Bond, but it also extended far beyond the screen. He was often seen performing his own stunts, refusing to let anyone else take the risks. Connery didn't just play tough, he lived it, often pushing himself to the limit, both on and off camera. Perhaps most telling about Connery's toughness was his ability to stand his ground when Hollywood tried to typecast him. His rough, no-nonsense attitude helped him break away from the Bond image and tackle diverse roles. His real strength wasn't just in his muscles, it was in his determination and refusal to be controlled by the studio system. 11. Tommy Lee Jones. Growing up on a ranch in Texas, Jones was no stranger to hard physical labor, learning early on the value of toughness and grit. From a young age, he was breaking horses and developing a fierce work ethic that would carry him through life. Jones's rugged upbringing laid the foundation for his Hollywood career. He wasn't just playing tough guys, he was one. His intensity and unflinching demeanor became trademarks of his on-screen roles. Known for his iconic performances in No Country for Old Men and The Fugitive, Jones's ability to channel his no-nonsense attitude came directly from his background. Discipline and determination were at the heart of everything he did, both on set and in life. Before becoming a Hollywood legend, Jones was a football player at Harvard, where he developed not just physical strength, but a fierce, competitive spirit. His Texas roots mixed with his Ivy League education to create a man with a blend of toughness and intellect. Someone who could dominate on screen and outthink the competition off screen. This combination of strength and mental fortitude helped him become one of the most respected actors in Hollywood. But it wasn't just his acting that made him tough. Jones's no-nonsense attitude meant he didn't suffer fools, and he made sure people knew it. There's a famous story of him slapping a director for rushing a scene. He wasn't afraid to stand up for his craft and push through anything standing in his way. His commitment to doing things his way, whether on set or off, further cemented his status as one of Hollywood's most intimidating figures. 10. Oliver Reed. He was a force of nature, known for his intense and often chaotic presence, both on and off the screen. Reed was as dangerous and unpredictable as the characters he portrayed. His reputation for hard living was as legendary as his acting. In fact, his on-set antics were often more wild than the roles he played. Reed was infamous for his love of drinking, sometimes consuming over 100 pints in just a few days. But that wasn't all. His violent temper was equally legendary. Reed once took on a group of 5 rugby players during a drunken bender and came out on top. He also knocked out a co-star during a choreographed fight scene, refusing to apologize for it. His wild lifestyle made him a difficult man to work with, but it also added an unpredictable intensity to his performances. Despite his erratic behavior, Reed's toughness was undeniable. He wasn't just playing a tough guy, he was one. He spent much of his time off-screen fighting, drinking, and embracing a life of excess. But when the cameras rolled, Reed's raw energy brought an authenticity to his roles that few others could match. His co-stars often described him as a man who didn't need direction. He was already living the part. One of Reed's most infamous stories occurred while filming Gladiator in Malta, where he drank himself into oblivion and then arm-wrestled strangers in a bar. This reckless behavior led to his death at 61, but it was the kind of wild, untamed lifestyle that defined his masculine image. Reed didn't just act tough, he lived it, making his performances all the more electrifying. 9. Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood didn't just play tough guys, he was one, both on and off the screen. Known for his iconic roles as the rugged anti-hero in Dirty Harry and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Eastwood's toughness wasn't a product of his acting career, but of a life built on real danger, resilience, and courage. Before he became the legendary star we know today, Eastwood lived through experiences that would break most people. In 1951, he was drafted into the Korean War, where he served as a swimmer in the Army. One of his most legendary survival stories occurred when his plane crashed into the Pacific Ocean, and Eastwood swam 3 miles through shark-infested waters to safety. That's the kind of toughness that Hollywood legends are made of. But Eastwood's bravery didn't stop there. On set, he demanded full control over his films, even going so far as to threaten producers with violence if they altered his work. He performed many of his own stunts and endured the physical dangers that came with them. riding wild horses, performing high-risk gunfights, and enduring extreme desert heat during the filming of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Eastwood thrived on pushing the limits. Even in his later years, Eastwood's physical resilience and stoic demeanor made him a tough figure in Hollywood. He was known for carrying a revolver while directing and refused to be intimidated by anyone. His philosophy was simple: a man's got to know his limitations, and Clint Eastwood had none. He didn't chase fame, he commanded it with the same tough, no-nonsense attitude that defined his career. 8. Steve McQueen. Steve McQueen wasn't just the king of cool on screen. He lived a life of constant danger and rebellion, constantly pushing the limits of both his physical abilities and his adventurous spirit. McQueen didn't just act tough, he lived tough. Before becoming one of Hollywood's most iconic stars, McQueen was a juvenile delinquent who had a rough upbringing, running away from home at 14 and finding himself in and out of trouble. But his rebellious streak didn't end there. He carried it with him into adulthood, taking on challenges most wouldn't dare. McQueen's love for speed wasn't just a hobby, it was a way of life. A motorsport enthusiast, he competed professionally in both motorcycle racing and car racing, often entering prestigious events under aliases to avoid studio interference. His dedication to racing was so serious that he even entered the 12 Hours of Sebring in 1970, finishing second despite racing with a broken foot in a cast. But McQueen's toughness went beyond his love for speed. His intensity on set was matched only by his intensity off-screen. He performed most of his own stunts, including the famous motorcycle jump in The Great Escape, where he became a symbol of rebellious cool. Yet, even with all his fame and success, McQueen remained a man of action, never afraid to put himself in the line of fire for the perfect shot. His determination to do his own stunts, no matter the cost, was legendary, and he didn't care about the risks involved. McQueen's fame didn't come without personal cost. He faced serious health challenges and was diagnosed with cancer in 1979. But just like his approach to life, McQueen faced this challenge head-on. He left the country in search of experimental treatments, but ultimately passed away in 1980 at the age of 50. Even in his final days, McQueen remained the embodiment of fearlessness, living life on his own terms until the very end. 7. Kirk Douglas. Kirk Douglas wasn't just a movie star. He was a symbol of perseverance and resilience. Born into poverty, he fought his way into Hollywood, but his toughness didn't come from fame alone. It was earned through years of physical and mental strength. During World War II, Douglas served as a communications officer on a submarine chaser and faced constant danger. His experience in the war shaped his tough, unyielding mindset. After the war, he brought that strength into his acting career, gaining a reputation for his fiery temper and demanding presence on set. But it was later in life that Douglas truly showed his toughness. In 1991, he survived a helicopter crash, and just months later, he was back on set. After a stroke in 1996, which severely impacted his speech, he fought through years of therapy to regain his ability to speak, even delivering a speech in his 80s. Douglas's resilience proved that he was as tough in real life as he was on screen. 6. Danny Trejo. Danny Trejo isn't just a Hollywood tough guy. His life story is one of survival, redemption, and relentless toughness. Before he became one of the most feared faces in Hollywood, Trejo spent years in the streets and maximum security prisons, including San Quentin. Inside, he earned the title of boxing champion in both the lightweight and welterweight divisions. These tough experiences forged him into the formidable figure we know today. What makes Trejo's story so remarkable is how he turned his past struggles into a force for good. After getting clean, he became a drug counselor, helping others who were trapped in the same cycle of addiction. His scars, both literal and emotional, became part of the strength that fueled his Hollywood career. He's covered in real scars, and unlike many actors who need makeup to look tough, Trejo's appearance was a direct reflection of his painful past. On set, Trejo didn't need to act tough. He was tough. His roles in films like Machete and Desperado brought his real-life intensity and physicality to the screen. But Trejo wasn't just a one-note tough guy. His vulnerability and grit made him one of the most respected actors in Hollywood. He's a man who survived stabbings, gang fights, and overdoses, yet turned his life around to become a symbol of strength and redemption. 5. Audie Murphy. Murphy didn't just portray a tough guy on screen. He was a real-life war hero whose feats of courage were so extraordinary they seemed almost too incredible to be true. Before entering Hollywood, Murphy was already a legend. At just 19 years old, he became the most decorated soldier in World War II, earning 33 medals, including the Medal of Honor. His bravery on the battlefield was unmatched. He single-handedly held off a German attack for an hour while wounded and out of ammunition. After the war, Hollywood took notice of his heroism, and Murphy went on to act in numerous films, even portraying himself in To Hell and Back, a film based on his own autobiography. The true depth of his wartime experiences made him uniquely equipped to bring authenticity and intensity to his roles. His portrayal of his own experiences was so raw that producers had to downplay some of his real-life heroics for fear they wouldn't be believed. Yet even in Hollywood, Murphy never fully escaped the ghosts of war. He suffered from PTSD, and his inner turmoil often showed through his performances. Murphy's toughness was about more than physical bravery. He was a man who lived with his scars, both mental and physical. His courage wasn't just on the battlefield, but in the way he lived his life afterward, dealing with the trauma of war while continuing to fight for his place in the world. He was a man who survived hell and became an icon in the process. For James Coburn. James Coburn wasn't just a suave, cool character on screen. He was a real-life martial artist and fighter whose toughness was born out of real experience. Known for his effortless style and calm demeanor, Coburn's on-screen presence often gave off the impression of a man who could strike at any moment. And that impression wasn't far from the truth. Before becoming a Hollywood legend, Coburn was a student of Bruce Lee, training in Jeet Kune Do and practicing full-contact sparring. Even with rheumatoid arthritis, a condition that caused him constant pain, Coburn refused to back down from physical challenges. In fact, he used his martial arts training and mental discipline to push through the pain without relying on painkillers, demonstrating the strength of his will. Coburn's toughness wasn't just physical. He also demonstrated mental fortitude throughout his life. He was known for living through agony with calm precision, whether it was battling through pain on set or surviving a near-fatal car crash that left him with lifelong injuries. Coburn's ability to continue working, performing his own stunts, and even competing in real-life fights showed just how deep his toughness ran. On set, he had the kind of Zen killer presence that Bruce Lee admired in him. Known for his cool-headed approach, Coburn's stoic demeanor was backed up by a genuine physicality and toughness. He once accidentally cracked a co-star's rib during a fight scene and kept rolling, no fuss, no complaints. His dedication to perfection and unwavering strength in the face of adversity made him one of the most respected men in Hollywood. 3. Lee Marvin, forged by war and hardened by real combat. Before becoming one of Hollywood's most iconic tough men, Marvin was a Marine scout sniper in World War II. He fought in some of the most brutal battles in the Pacific, including the Battle of Saipan, where he was shot twice, once in the foot and once in the backside. This didn't stop him. Marvin kept fighting and earned a Purple Heart for his bravery. His time in the military gave Marvin an authentic edge that translated directly into his acting career. He didn't need to act tough. He had lived it. In fact, his military experience gave him a unique understanding of violence and warfare, which made his portrayals of hardened criminals and soldiers more realistic than most actors of his era. Off-screen, Marvin was known for his no-nonsense attitude. He carried his war scars, both physical and emotional, into every role. His career wasn't just built on acting ability, but on a gritty, authentic energy that made him both respected and feared. He once knocked out a stuntman for making fun of veterans, and his hard living didn't stop on set. Marvin was also involved in real bar fights, even showing up to set bruised from his latest brawl. Marvin's presence on and off screen was so intimidating that even his co-stars were in awe. Actors like James Coburn noted that when Marvin entered a room, the atmosphere immediately changed. Everyone knew they were in the presence of a genuine tough guy. His performances were filled with raw intensity and authenticity, making him one of the most feared and respected actors in Hollywood. 2. Charles Durning. Charles Durning wasn't just a celebrated actor, he was a warrior in the truest sense of the word. Before he became known for his roles in films like The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas and Tootsie, Durning had already lived through some of the most harrowing experiences of any actor in Hollywood. Drafted during World War II, Durning became part of the first wave of soldiers to storm Omaha Beach on D-Day. Amid the chaos of war, he was shot in the hip, chest, and leg, but he didn't stop. He killed enemy soldiers in hand-to-hand combat and later managed to escape from a Nazi prison camp, a feat that would define his life far more than any film role ever could. After surviving the horrors of war, Durning returned home, but the psychological scars remained. Like many soldiers who had lived through such intense trauma, he struggled with the memories of what he had seen and done. However, acting became his way of confronting his past, and he would only accept roles that didn't glamorize war. Durning's strength wasn't just physical. His emotional resilience was equally formidable. What made Durning unique was his ability to carry the weight of war with him, yet still bring authenticity to every role. His toughness wasn't about showing off, it was in his humble nature and quiet strength. Even in his later years, he remained a true example of endurance and grit, having lived through and triumphed over more adversity than most people could ever imagine. Finally, John Wayne, the embodiment of American masculinity, Wayne's life both on and off screen was a masterclass in strength, resilience, and unwavering principles. His image as the ultimate Western hero wasn't just a character, it was a reflection of the man he truly was. Before becoming Hollywood's legendary Duke, Wayne's life was shaped by hardships that would define his tough guy persona. Standing 6 feet 4 inches and with a powerful build, Wayne had a natural advantage in his early days. But it wasn't just physical prowess that made him tough. It was his mental fortitude and his refusal to back down from anything. His career didn't come without its challenges, though. During World War II, Wayne was rejected for military service due to his age and health, but he later served as a propaganda figure for the war effort, raising millions for the military. However, his true toughness would be tested later. In 1964, he was diagnosed with stomach cancer, but even this wouldn't stop him. He kept filming, even while undergoing radiation treatments and surgery. His perseverance was so legendary that he continued to perform stunts even after having a lung removed. Wayne's ability to endure physical pain and continue working was unmatched. Even in his final years, with his health rapidly deteriorating, he kept working, showing up to film The Shootist while battling terminal cancer. His physical courage was rivaled only by his strong moral code, and his on-screen characters reflected his real-life integrity, bravery, and commitment to doing what was right, no matter the cost. To this day, John Wayne remains the quintessential tough guy, a man who not only played heroes, but lived as one. His legacy as one of the toughest men in Hollywood will forever be cemented in the annals of film history. And there you have it, the 15 toughest actors in Hollywood history, each one a testament to real-life toughness that went far beyond the roles they played on screen. From the combat-hardened heroism of Audie Murphy to the raw grit of John Wayne, these men embodied strength, resilience, and the kind of determination that makes their on-screen characters seem like second nature. But now, we want to hear from you. Which of these legends do you think was the toughest? Thank you for watching the video. I hope you liked it, and don't forget to subscribe to follow the secrets of the biggest icons in history.